Let's go!
All right. We have a video we have to watch. IGN did an interview with Matsumoto-san, who is the producer for the MvC collection, the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. I also have some footage of the collection that we're going to review and go over, and I'll do some impressions of what I played, because I played some of it in the background. I didn't get a ton of time with it outside of the like an hour we had with Justin. So I'll talk about other things. I want to hear what IGN asked them and what Matt's had to say about this, because I'm very curious. Chat, we're living in a golden era here. Can I tell you? We're living in the 1 in 14,605,000. We're actually here. Just identify that. Understand that. 2 months ago, this was an alternate reality that you could only dream of. And here we are living the actual fucking dream. Marvel vs. Capcom is back.
What's up, everyone? Mitchell Saltzman. We're here at EVO 2024. I'm here with Shuhei Matsumoto, the producer of Marvel vs. Capcom Collection.
KYH, thank you.
6. And first question, let's just talk about how long has this collection been in the works?
So we've been planning for about 3-4 years to make this project a reality. We've
Oh
been
my
talking
God.
with Marvel for quite a while, and back then we just didn't have the opportunities to release this game. But now, after those discussions with them, we were finally able to do so.
Speaking of, talking with Marvel, can you describe what Capcom's relationship is with Marvel right now?
Good question.
It's very positive. As we mentioned, we've been in talks with them for a few years now, and they've really been excited and motivated to release these classic games. So overall, it's been really good and positive.
You mentioned in another interview that Capcom has big dreams for the Versus series. Can you talk a little bit about what those dreams are and what the Versus series means to you as a whole?
Yeah, this doesn't just apply to the Versus series. We have a lot of other legacy fighting games that we know fans out there are really want them to be re-released again on modern platforms, and the feeling is mutual on the development side. We want people to get to know all these other classic games. So hopefully what we can do right now is to try to re-release them, and so that people who may have never had the chance to play those games to get familiarized with them, and from there hopefully we can go into bigger and better things.
So, I mean, that isn't that weird of a thing to say. The Capcom Fighting Collection from 2022 is a good example of that, right? Where they just were able to finally release games like Warzerd, all of the Darkstalkers games, including the weird ones. There was a lot of Pocket Fighter, for God's sake. There was a whole bunch of games in that collection that were just stuck to PS1 era, and that was it.
Go into bigger and better things.
Speaking of some of those classic Capcom fighting game series, Street Fighter 3 for Third Strike just had an incredible top 6 at EVO. Is that that's a game that's been re-released several times over the years? Is that something that still you're looking at, also kind of giving a definitive edition for in the future, or is it kind of one of those things where we've already done several re-releases for it?
Definitely, we want all our classic games to be available for modern consoles, because we just want to be able to reach as many people who may have never had the opportunity to play these games back in the day. So we constantly think forward, and we want to make sure that it's as accessible as possible for all audiences.
Oh my God! How did he do that? He went past PS3!
So going back to Marvel vs. Capcom for a second, this is a game that means so much to fans across the world, really, especially popular streamers like Maximilian, like Justin Wong. I was wondering, have you seen any of those reactions, and what's your reaction to how people have received the announcement
Who?
of this collection?
はい、実際見ました。
Yes, we definitely saw all the reactions and the comments and the positive feedback when we were able to make the announcement. And the feeling
hell
is
is
mutual.
this?
Once we realized that we were able to re-release these games and it became green-lit and official,
What was this shit?
our reaction matched that same energy. So, yeah, we're definitely excited.
The beat 'em up side scroller, the Punisher, and more.
It feels like a door has been
What?
opened with regards
The fuck was that? Hey, IGN, what the hell? Okay. No context? Huh? Do we have the same reaction to the Mario Party game that comes after?
to the Marvel vs. Capcom series, because it's been, you know, we've heard nothing about it for so long. Is this the kind of thing where if this game does well, the future of the Versus series is wide open, and you know there could be more collaborations between Marvel and Capcom or other franchises out there?
やっぱり、
So to answer your question about whether or not we want to make a brand new Versus series title, the answer to that is yes. And the best thing that we can do right now is to re-release these classic titles that some of our fans may not be fully aware of. And of course, there's constraints, there's different schedules. It's going to require collaboration with other non-Capcom parties in order to make this happen. And that could take some time, but we feel that the best that we can do right now is to re-release these games to energize the community.
Switching gears for a second to Street Fighter 6, you guys announced.
So that, I mean, lines up, right? Just to break down, it's like Marvel 4, Marvel vs. Capcom 5, whatever the hell we want to call it. This lines up because we're in a very similar situation that we were back in the late 2000s before Marvel 3 came out and they released Marvel 2, where Marvel 2's release was kind of like a test, if not a barometer, of how many people would be interested in a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. The same thing's happening here. Marvel 2 is once again being used as sort of a test. Now, here's the thing. It's already worked because obviously the game is going to sell well, right? They've already had a decent amount of response. Game's not even out yet, you know? So I think a lot of people were asking me before, and we made a video about it, what are the chances of Marvel vs. Capcom 4 at this point? And I'm like, chanced, like decent. And that's the thing. All he's saying is just reacclimating what I kind of understand about the situation, and it's that, well, the relationship exists now. Like, the whole reason this wasn't happening was because the relationship did not exist anymore. There was no people to liaison in between Capcom and Marvel after, you know, what went down in the 2010s and shit. So that's gone. Like, they figured out all the licensing for all of the characters that are in every single Versus game pre-Marvel 3. They figured that out. So to me, like, anything is on the table now. And it's that the only way it would not be on the table is if this collection was not received well or did poorly, right? If this was not received well, then I would say that, yeah, potentially the whatever future plans there could be mitigated or something like that. That 100% could happen. But we're not there. Like, people are screaming to the rooftops about all this shit. People are super happy that it's happening. The previous collections have been good. It would be weird if this one was just suddenly bad, you know? So anyway, what are the chances of there being like a future for Marvel vs. Capcom from this point after this happening? Likely, bro. I don't think it's going to happen immediately, but we are in a future where this shit is likely to happen some point down the road. So much to the point, let me reiterate, so much to the point that it's more like, oh, you know, like Capcom and SNK, like Terry and Mai are in Street Fighter and SNK is releasing SvC Chaos and shit. Oh, Capcom and SNK are back in bed with each other. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. That's really cool. They're also releasing their weird old Neo Geo Pocket games on Switch. It's like, whoa, that was a big deal. That means they're working together. These things mean things, right? So the fact that those two companies were specifically back in bed with each other, it was like, oh, they're cozy releasing their own games? Well, that's cool. I mean, Does that mean a Capcom versus SNK collection or a new CVS game can happen? Absolutely, dude. 100%. In fact, I don't think it's a sign of it happening. I think it's just an eventuality. And that really is where I'm at right now with Marvel versus Capcom. I don't even feel like getting a new CVS game is outside of the realm of possibility. I think that's just an eventuality that shit is going to happen. That either SNK or Capcom are going to make it or some shit. Like a brand new game. I think it's just inevitable because the games are doing well enough and people are responding to it positively. I feel like now Marvel versus Capcom as a franchise is in the same boat. I think we're back. I think we're effectively back, you know?
Fatal Fury are going to make their appearance in Street Fighter 6. How did that collaboration come about?
まあ SNK さんと
So Capcom has had a long relationship with SNK, and we've been discussing with them for quite a while now. And actually,
There you go.
You know, during COVID, there was a period of time where we couldn't have any offline tournaments. But then once restrictions started to become a little looser, and once EVO was able to start up again, we were talking with them to see if is there anything that.
The one thing I will say about Terry and what looks weird about him to me, I feel like his outfit doesn't fit in Street Fighter 6. Does that seem weird? I feel the only thing about Terrell that comes across as like odd to me is not just his face, is the fact that his costume doesn't really feel like it fits SF6 at all. To be real, Fatal Fury Terry feels like it would make a lot more sense in Street Fighter 6. The costume feels like a 90s throwback shit, you know? And don't get me wrong, I think we're going to get the Fatal Fury costume. But weirdly, this seems like Creator Terry in some way in comparison to the actual Terry, which would be like Fatal Fury. You know, to me, it sort of feels, it feels like he's in like he's like a KOF dude stuck in here all of a sudden. Don't get me wrong, he is that, but he doesn't really feel like he belongs in this universe as well.
That we can do to celebrate this moment now that we're all back together. And the idea that came out of those conversations,
I remember
was
this,
to do these collaborative posters where both SNK artists.
I remember making literal videos about these posters and how much this means, chat. I'm telling y'all when this shit is happening, why it's a big deal. I'll make it a big deal, you know?
And Capcom artists draw each other's characters in their own style. And at that time, we were also working on actively developing Street Fighter 6. So we really wanted to see if there's any opportunity to introduce some of their characters. So we asked if it's possible to get Terry and Mai in Street Fighter 6, and they were very open about it and positive. And yeah, it started small to see what we can do in the short term, but then through conversation.
And to be real, dude, Terry he looks weird. Don't get me wrong, but all the dudes in Street Fighter 6 look weird. Let's be honest. There's no beautiful characters in SF6 outside of some female faces. Most characters have like weird as F looking hyper distorted, super like very extreme facial features type of shit. Jamie, you think Jamie looks beautiful in every shot? I'd argue Rashid is the most beautiful. Like, we don't get beautified Terry is kind of what's happening here. Ken looks good. Ken looks good in some angles, in some shots. Ken looks good sometimes. I think Ken is the best looking Ken in 3D that Capcom has ever done. To me, like the most beautiful character that's a male dude in the game is probably Rashid. I think he looks really good. But most characters are supposed to be like hyper detailed and like weirdly realistic in some ways. To me, Terry just sort of lines up with the art style where it's like, huh, yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about like the wind screens where they all look cool and shit. No. Not the wind screens. We're talking about like the generic like shots that we see in these cinematics and stuff, like in game and shit. They look good, but they don't look beautiful like KOF beautiful, you know?
We try to see.
That's just Street Fighter 6's art style.
What's something that's even bigger that we can do, and we're finally to the point where both Terry and Mai are going to be coming out shortly.
Terry is a character that, you know, fits obviously very well in the SNK style of fighting game. How has it been translating his moveset and his playstyle over to Street Fighter? If you can talk a little bit about how he's going to play in Street Fighter 6.
そうね、キャラクターを多分選
So
定
this doesn't just apply to the SNK characters, but when we during our selection process for any characters that join the game's roster, we always try to think about whether or not they're a good fit in terms of like the game system, game mechanics, and Terry and I passed that test, and they felt that they would be a great great add-on to this lineup. So yeah, we're very excited for them to come out.
So the mainline Street Fighter series has kind of historically not included any guest characters. So I was just wondering what changed to finally open the door for guest characters to come in, and is that door open so much to the fact that, or to the way that other fighting game properties might find their way into Street Fighter?
まあ、イヤー2
So Terry and I are joining the roster in the starting from the year 2 lineup, which is relatively early in the lifetime of the game. However, we were all very excited about the positivity that we saw online once we made the announcement. We're very much looking forward to actually seeing people play with these characters, and based on that reaction and based on how people are engaging with these characters, we would like to consider other options maybe in the future.
Wow.
So this was quite a big challenge for us to even incorporate these guest characters.
Wow.
As you mentioned, this is the first time. But hopefully things move forward in a positive way, and there's more opportunities that open up for us.
Scorpion or Sub-Zero? Sub-Zero confirmed. Yeah. I think everyone just threw it out immediately. You can't exactly put a Street Fighter character into a Mortal Kombat game, because we're not going to be able to rip the throat out of Ryu or Chun-Li. However, there is space for a Mortal Kombat character to get added to Street Fighter. You know what would be fucking crazy? Damn, bro. You know what would be crazy? I'm going to lean back for this shit. Season 3 of Street Fighter is announced. Season 3 of Street Fighter 6 is announced. And the first character they show for Season 3 of Street Fighter is like Cyclops, and him and Ryu shake hands. And it's like where things will go from this point. Although that would be, and I will say, that'll probably not happen, because if that is sort of a sign of where things are going, they already have their own game, right? There would already be a game later on that would potentially have those characters crossing over in that way. So that seems like I'm gonna catch myself. That's really hype, but that is an overlap. That doesn't feel necessary. And to me, if I was Capcom, I wouldn't do that. I would just do a Marvel versus Capcom game, right? I would just make a Marvel versus Capcom 4 and then have that be that game, I'm curious where they would go from this point forward.
And then final question, this is something that I've been asking pretty much everyone that I've talked to here at EVO, but what do you think is the next kind of evolution for the fighting game genre? To give you an example, netcode was something that a lot of fighting games struggled with, and then rollback netcode came along and it kind of pushed the genre forward. What do you think is like the next thing that will push the fighting game genre forward?
それで言うと
So to speak on Street Fighter 6, we took on a lot of different challenges, and our goal was to get people as interested in fighting games as much as possible. And we feel that because of our efforts, we were able to reach an audience that might have never wanted to play a fighting game. We're seeing a lot of engaged players, especially in Japan, and people who this may be their first time playing a fighting game, actually enjoying it. So whether it's technical improvements or just constantly servicing the game to provide new content, we feel that us and companies in general need to think about all these things in order to reach this audience. And
better single player for newbies? Bro, the single player in Street Fighter 6 is amazing for newcomers. So much so that it's like boring for me.
explain to them and get them to realize that, hey, fighting games are...
Street Fighter 6's tools to bring in newcomers and teach people how to play the game is awesome. Like, it's great. It's just, it doesn't engage me so much. I'm just waiting to like run into characters and stuff because it's like, I just want to play online.
Are a lot of fun and they're worth checking out. So there's probably a lot of different things that we need to continue to think about, and yeah, we hope to be able to reach more people in the future.
All right, well, Matsumoto-san, thank you so much for your time. And for more fighting game coverage right here at EVO 24, keep it here on IGN.
Yeah, that was a really good interview, IGN. I'll give you props. That was a very good interview. That hit some notes that I'm very excited about. They practically confirmed that, like, yeah, we would love to make Marvel vs. Capcom again. Yeah, we want to bring back older fighting game franchises. Here's the crazy part of this whole situation. With what is happening with modern day Capcom, I don't feel like it is that weird to think that we're in a spot where there can be legit a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. There can be a new CVS game. There can be a CVS collection. I feel like at some point, it's also an eventuality that there's going to be a Capcom 3D fighting collection, that the next collection that happens, or one of the next ones, instead of being a CVS collection, can no shit just be Project Justice, Rival Schools, Power Stone, Power Stone 2, Star Gladiator, Plasma Sword. I feel like that legit can happen now. Like, there's no reason why it couldn't, considering what they've been doing over the past couple years and what they're doing right now. So that's what's crazy to me. It's like, dude, everything's on the table now. I don't think that they've entirely forgotten about this shit. So, and not even to mention that there could be brand new games. Understand that Capcom is doing better now than they ever have. Ever in the history of the company. And the decisions that they're making and the games that they're making are doing relatively well. Actually, very well. So, Street Fighter 6 was very successful. And imagine some of that similar effort put into other fighting games. And they're also going to be an RE engine, and that'll be done significantly quicker because the devs know how to actually use RE engine for a fighting game now. We're legit in the one reality where this shit can actually happen. I don't think it's a matter of if anymore. I truly think it's just a matter of when.